start today's panel, I'm going to start by bringing each of our panel members up to the microphone. I'll give you a little introduction for them and then allow them to have just 2 or 3 minutes to have an opening remark and just come from their own space of expertise. And then after that, I have some prepared questions that I'll be asking them. We'll develop that into a conversation with some follow-up questions, and then toward the end, we will be opening it up to the audience. So if you came today with questions about fentanyl, or something you hear today inspires a question that you want to know more about, this will be your opportunity to get that information directly from the experts. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll just start here on the end. We have today with us Dr. Donny Lee. He was unanimously approved as our new Wichita Falls ISD superintendent just this past July. Previously, he served as superintendent at both Una ISD and Oakwood ISD. So Dr. Lee, we'll give you a few minutes, just whatever you'd like to say.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you to the Rotary for having me. You know, from my perspective as superintendent of schools, my top priority is the safety of all of our kids, of all 13,300 students. And you can remember, a lot of you, when you were in high school like I was, if kids did drugs, they would, smoke marijuana. That was a big one. They would do hard drugs. And so it was more easily noticeable if you went to school and you smelled like marijuana, or you had stuff on your face, residue. The kids these days, they can take a pill and there's no smell, no taste, and sometimes there's no effects that you can visually see until it's too late. And so our job, and my job as superintendent, working with conjunction of the police and other organizations, Crime Stoppers, is to raise awareness to our parents and to our students on how dangerous fentanyl is. Some kids think, well, I'm just taking this pill, and it's Oxycontin, or it's hydrocodone, or it's whatever it may be, and it's no big deal. Well, what they don't know is just the slightest amount of fentanyl can kill them, and they don't even think about that. They're not aware. And so our job in the district is to work in conjunction and partnership with others to raise awareness of how dangerous this drug is. So thank you.
Next here on my left is Ms. Stacey Wood. She is the Director of Nursing for the Wichita Falls ISD, and she previously served as the Director of Nursing for the Clinics of North Texas. So, Ms. Wood?
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. Like Ms. Hall said, my name is Stacey Wood. I'm the Director of Nurses for WFISD, and my goal for being here in education is to help educate and make sure that our staff is trained and ready to take care of any situations should that arise during the kids being at school. Safety and health is my #1 priority for our students in our community, and making sure that we have the resources, the training, to be able to, God forbid if we have to use Zim-High or naloxone, but we just want to make sure that we do everything we can to entrust your students, your kids, while they're with us. Thank you.
Immediately to my right, we have Dr. Ellaheh Ebrahim. She is a family medicine specialist with more than 28 years of medical experience. She joined the team at Community Healthcare Center in 2015 and currently serves as the Chief Medical Officer.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Ebrahim. I'm a family physician by training. I have been working with Community Healthcare Center for the past 7.5 years. I'm privileged to be here and then share some of the information that I recently shared with my board members and as well as our employees. As you know, fentanyl awareness is something that all of us we would like to bring to the community, and then the kill pill is fentanyl, and one pill can kill one person easily. Fentanyl is the single deadliest drug threat our nation has ever encountered. And as you know, fentanyl is everywhere. This is the information that we would like to bring to the community, to the nation, to prevent death and actually save lives. One thing I would like to mention this year, because of so many people died of fentanyl poisoning, DEA came up with the National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day, which is August 21st, 2022. The reason that they would like to kind of mention this date because we lost a lot of lives. And the National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day is established in remembrance of those lost to illicit fentanyl poisoning and to acknowledge the devastation this drug has brought to thousands, hundreds of thousands of affected family members and friends. The reason that I showed this picture because those that they lost their family members, they can send a picture to the DEA and then they're gonna post it on the wall to show how many people lost a life that we could save. And I'm glad that I'm here. I don't know, I'm able to continue my slides or do you want me to sit down and later on to share?
Let's hold the rest of them until.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And farthest to the right here, we have Chief of Police Manuel Borrego. He has held his current position for 10 years and has served in the Wichita Falls PD for 40 years, as well as serving in both the U.S. Marine Corps and the Army Reserve. Chief?
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate the invite to come talk about this problem that we're having, not only in our city, but in our state nationwide. It's good to see, it really is, that during this crisis, that this isn't just being settled on the police department, that our community has become aware of it, and it's concerning them, the parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters that are worried about what's going on out there. So it's good to see that we have our social groups out here, such as Rotary, that are involved in this, because we're going to have to do this as a village. It can't just be the police department that handles this. Over the weekend, we had a 16-year-old that overdosed on fentanyl. By the time the police got there, he was dead, but we were able to give him Narcan and revive him, enough to get him back into the hospital and where he was able to recover. But I can tell you that y'all know how many deaths we've had this year. We don't know exactly how many overdoses we've had. So we have to kind of wait for the autopsies to come back on those that died to find out whether it's fentanyl. But a lot of overdoses are occurring where we're able to revive either through our EMTs, the fire department, police department, or we get them in the hospital, they get revived. But a lot of them are dying. And we have repeats. That's the problem with this. We have repeat. They know it's going to kill them, but they do it anyway. So education's huge, and we're doing a multi-pronged approach to try to address this fentanyl issue in our community through education, through enforcement, and prosecution. So thank you all for caring, and thank you all for keeping this in the limelight here in the city also. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to start with some questions, and let's go back the opposite direction here. Let's start with Chief. My concern professionally is how fentanyl affects the youth. But would you classify this as a youth issue? Is it something broader? Can you talk about the age groups that are typically abusing the counterfeit pills?
Okay, these pills are being abused by pretty much every age group. But we're seeing that our youth is the largest group that's abusing this. Our young teenagers up into the 20s. We've had some deaths that have occurred at age 50 on down, but for the most part, it's our kids. Once you're an adult, there's consequences, and if you make a choice, you're an adult. We've got to take care of our kids. Our kids make bad choices. We talk to them all day, they still make a bad choice. So we really have to work on it because this is affecting mostly our teenage kids and our young youth in the 20s. So it's where the problems begin.
And about how many arrests have been made so far in connection with this?
Well, currently, and I'll tell you, this is kind of something that we started. You know, people have been overdosing on drugs for hundreds of years. But this has become such a dangerous drug that we thought, as a police department, we needed to affect this a different way. And how is that going to be? We're going to try to find out who was selling this and charge that person with murder. And we were able to get with the district attorney. And like I said, we're doing a three-pronged approach to this. One is education through our schools and our safe schools through Crime Stoppers. The arrests that we can make, the investigations. If we feel like somebody has overdosed on a synthetic opioid that we believe is fentanyl, then our narcotics unit also gets involved in that investigation, start collecting evidence, start trying to backward move that case to find out who may have sold this. And of course, prosecution with the district attorney. Currently, we've had 20 deaths of fentanyl here in Wichita Falls. There are other deaths. We're waiting on the toxicology reports to get back to find out if it wasn't, in fact, fentanyl that was involved. And if that's the case, then we will try to get some charges against other people. And it may not just be murder. It could be manslaughter. It could be a delivery. But as long as we get a charge and our district attorney's on board to prosecute these to the fullest extent, then I think we'll see that we can make some headway with this.
Okay, the chief mentioned some education and Crime Stoppers. Dr. Lee, I'd like to ask you, can you tell me more about the partnership with Crime Stoppers in the district and how that education is being implemented in the school district?
Yeah, Chief mentioned it, and what it's about is it's just a partnership, because he said we can't do this just as a police force, we can't do this just as a school district. Parents can't do it by themselves. It takes everybody working together to bring awareness to it, and that's what Crime Stoppers does, is it helps everybody understand what fentanyl is. For example, we put that on our website. Our Director of Communication, Ashley Thomas, has that on there under Parent Resources. You click on Parent Resources, it takes you to fentanyl. You click on that, and there's a whole host of resources in there, and a lot of that was through Crime Stoppers, the videos of what that looks like. What is it? Who, what, where, when, and why of it. So that's what it is. It's just in conjunction and partnership, and then we take that a step further and work with local pastors and churches, with different civic organizations to help spread that message more.
And will there be any specific training for teachers or anything that will be implemented directly in the classroom that teachers? Okay, is that something, Stacey, would you like to address?
So currently, right before this tragedy happened a few weekends ago, we've been working with a foundation that's close to our community out in Dallas, that she also had lost her son. And we knew that one of the Zim highs with me, if anyone just kind of wanted to see what that looks like. But it is naloxone. And every one of our campuses throughout the district is also stocked with a Zim high, should this affect our schools. But you asked specifically about teachers. Yes, we are currently working with not only our nursing staff, but our athletics, our teachers, our principals. So our goal is to educate everybody and ensure that everybody knows what to do should they encounter this.
And specifically, what is the goal with having Narcan available at every campus?
So, like you've already heard, Dr. Lee mentioned this earlier. Back whenever people took drugs, usually you would know. You could see it. You could smell it. Now, it's almost like a silent killer. Your children, with their safety, having this in the school systems allows us to just be able to administer, should this happen, in a safe, fast manner. Every second counts, and every student matters. So if it were to come to it and we had to call 911, it's going to take them a little while to get there. Our nurses, our staff, our teachers, our principals are there. So I feel like it's our job as the healthcare community who takes care of these students on campus to do everything we can to save their life.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Dr. Ebrahim. Talked about like the need for very fast action. So I'd like you to address, if you could, what if I have taken fentanyl and I suspect that I may be suffering from fentanyl poisoning? What should I do?
The first things you need to do, just call 911. And then if you have patch on, you have to remove the patch, because as the patch says, you will absorb more medication to your body. And this is the kind of things that you need to do in order to prevent yourself dying.
Okay, and you mentioned a patch, so some people have a fentanyl patch on already. So the fentanyl crisis that we're facing, is it more people who are using fentanyl with a prescription, with a patch? Is it more illicit that people are seeking fentanyl? Or is it something else, maybe they're seeking other drugs and getting the fentanyl accidentally? Can you talk about what is most commonly leading to the poisoning?
I really would like to show my
Okay,
slide.
sure, absolutely. Let's get her slides into this.
I would like to just share some facts with you. I got all of this information from the DEA website as well as the CDC. What you see here, according to the CDC, fentanyl poisoning is not the leading cause of death in adult ages 18 to 45, while also devastating teens ages 13 to 17. And you have to understand that in the past 12 months, from year 2020 to 2021, we lost over 100,000 lives because of the fentanyl poisoning. And they projected that the fentanyl deaths are projected to double in the year ahead, meaning that we have to prepare ourselves as we are doing right now. A staggering 67% of those deaths involve synthetic opioids, the fentanyl, meaning that the illegal or illicit fentanyl actually causing more death than the prescription fentanyl. Because when we prescribe fentanyl, we regularly bring the patient back and talk to them and educate them. But those that they are taking the illicit fentanyl, they just take it and they don't know how much they are taking. Next slide. This is a very, very important slide. If you look at the amount of fentanyl, you can see a snowflake can kill people. And compared to the heroin, the illicit fentanyl is 100 times more potent than the morphine, and also 50 times stronger than heroin. Next slide, please. Next slide. Look at this map. From 2016 to 2020, you see we have more red color states that they are recognize that they have problem with fentanyl in just 4 years. And right now in 2020, we know that the fentanyl is everywhere. Next slide. Overdose deaths involving synthetic opioids in 2020 were over 18 times the number in 2013. Right now, because we would like to bring the fentanyl awareness to the community, we have to speak up. And if you think illicit fentanyl cannot touch your family, we urge you to think again. How many have to die? This is a question we have to ask ourselves. And we, the community, should be a voice for change. Next slide. Prevention and education is a definite power to help others make educated choices. Again, we have to come together and educate our kids at school, parents, everybody in the community. And then hopefully we can prevent these things that I don't know how even to name. If you look at this slide, you can see the fake medication, oxycodone. It's exactly the same as the authentic one. And kids, even our patients, cannot recognize that which one is the authentic than the fake. And we have to bring the awareness. Actually, criminal drug networks are mass producing fake pills. The problem is not only they have oxycodone in it, they add fentanyl to the medication. And people that they are not taking fentanyl regularly, it just small dose of fentanyl can kill them. Next slide. When you see a person with the symptoms, I just want to show this slide that the fentanyl kills people instantly. People that they died because of fentanyl poisoning, they were suffocated. And because of that, when you see someone unresponsive, first of all, call 911. Second of all, look for the pill inside the mouth. If there is anything, please remove it. But you have to understand this. Always you have warm gloves because you can absorb the medicine through the skin. This fentanyl, I said it medicine because sometimes we prescribe it as a medicine too. This fentanyl doesn't have smell. You cannot smell it and you cannot taste it. And you have to be very careful with, when you touch something. Next slide. And as one of the panelists mentioned, naloxone or Narcan is the drug of choice that we can use to reverse the symptoms. And hopefully we can have more of this, and everybody should carry one, as sometimes we carry an EpiPen. And you can save lives just by using this medication. It's easy to use, it's not really difficult, but make sure you should call 911 before even administering this medication to a person with the fentanyl poisoning symptoms. Next slide. This is actually the medication. As I said, it's easy to use. Next slide. And we have to be the change. We have to bring the change to our community, and hopefully we can save lives. Thank you so much.
So Dr. Ebrahim has gone over some really devastating physical impact from the drugs. I'm curious, and so perhaps either one of you from the school district can answer, are we seeing any mental or emotional impact on the kids yet? Is there fear spreading? Can you talk about how this is affecting the kids in their daily lives?
I'll start. I can start with that, and then if Dr. Lee wants to add. Yes, it's going to affect. It does affect their lives. It's just like anything. It's very emotional. They more than likely know more than you think they do. And we've always heard that, from our kids. And on top of that, our children probably know somebody who has taken it or knows someone who knows someone. And the mental part of this aspect is it's very stressful for these children. They're living in a world that things are so accessible to them. Things that can kill them, things that can harm them, and they don't really understand that. I myself, personally, have been talking to my children about this, and my son, who is 15, literally came home the other day and said, "Oh my God, this is real." Yes, this is real. I've been telling you this for months. And because he knew someone who knew someone who knew one of the kids that passed away, it became very real for him. So even though it's our responsibility as parents, as healthcare, law enforcement providers of this community to educate, keep saying it. Saying it once may not get through. So, yes, we do see that, absolutely. Do you want to add?
You nailed it.
Thank you. And I've seen some fear in kids. This last week we had a Halloween party at Big Brothers Big Sisters. One of the young teenagers told us she's not going trick-or-treating this year. She's scared. Chief, can you speak to that? I've heard several people say they don't want to go trick-or-treating because they've heard that fentanyl can be disguised as candy. Is that a valid fear? Is that something that families should be worried about with Halloween coming up?
Well, I think it's just going to be up to the parents on what they want. Now, we're not saying that people are distributing this drug like candy out there. That fear's been out there since heroin and crack cocaine and everything been out there that, well, they're going to throw in my kids candy along with razor blades. But, it's a valid concern for parents. This is very scary. This isn't something that is going to get your kid high and maybe you can get him through it. This could potentially kill them, and I think that's where the fear comes from. And but we have to be fearful, but we have to understand reality, and we need to address this as adults in dealing with our children. I don't think that kids they're going to hand this out. It costs money for these pills, so they're not going to just throw them out there and as candy. But parents, you're going to do what you feel is safer for your kids and what's more comfortable. So if you want to hand out candy, I'm sure people will appreciate that come by. But we're not concerned that it's being handed out there just for anybody to that's going to be handing out like Christmas Halloween candy.
Thank you. Okay, right now I would like to open this up to the audience. If anyone listening, do you have any questions, and you can address it to the entire panel, or if there's someone specific on the panel that you would like to ask a question of. So just go ahead and raise your hand. Okay.
I just had a question. I work with Hope Center Ministries, so we're a community resource for adults struggling with addiction. But a lot of times I have people call me who have a child who's struggling with addiction. What are the community resources here in Wichita Falls for youth that are already struggling with addiction?
I would like to.
Jean, can you restate the question, please?
Okay, the question in brief was, if there are children who are struggling with addiction, what resources do we have in the community where those families or those children can go to get help with addiction?
If you have any questions, any concern, you can contact this number and then they can help you. Also, if you have anybody with this situation, you can contact us and then we can help the family, the child to get to see a proper physician or receive the services that they need.
Thank you. And we are recording this panel discussion today, and so we're going to have that available, I think, on our Rotary Club website. We'll make sure that we have that phone number also available with the video. Okay, other questions? Okay. Yes?
So if Narcan becomes readily available, this is becoming an awareness, and so if you find it in your organization where you work or your schools or businesses or otherwise, that it's readily available, or even to families, you said if you know someone, if you want to carry that, is there any kind of adverse effects from delivering Narcan if in fact, for whatever reason, they have not been poisoned with an illicit drug or fentanyl? Are there any adverse reactions to the Narcan?
Okay, so the question is, if you administer Narcan to someone who is not in fact suffering from fentanyl poisoning, are there adverse effects to that?
I can start, but I'll let Dr. Abraham give you the final version. I can tell you in our education and training, we have been taught that there are no side effects with the Zimhide. That is one of the naloxons. And so I've heard the same thing regarding the nasal sprays. So if you're ever in doubt, we have been trained to give it. It's better to be safe, to save a life, because every second counts. Dr. Abraham?
Yeah, this medication actually is approved by FDA. When they approve it, and then they actually allowed all of the pharmacies for the first time carrying it in the pharmacy and then dispensing it, meaning that it's safe for everyone to use it in case if they needed it. I'm not really worried about any one of you carrying it as long as you receive the training how to use it. And it's not really difficult to administer this medication. As you know, for example, when you use an EpiPen, and that if you're not 100% sure that that person has allergic reaction to something, anyhow, you will use it. This is the same way.
Thank you. All right, other questions? Yes.
Are there any preventative measures being done in schools to ensure that kids are not bringing drugs into the school, like other drug dogs? Because, you know, I mean, this is our thing, so are we trying to stop that before they come into the school? Or is that being discussed, or, I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, and I would be able to be on.
Hold on, let me repeat the question,
Yeah.
just make sure everyone can. The question is, what preventative measures are being taken to stop the drugs before they come into the schools?
Yeah, in regards to the drugs I mentioned earlier, yes. But with fentanyl, it's odorless, and I don't know, and I would be able to tell maybe Chief what if we've got dogs trained to smell fentanyl, and maybe we do, and I'm not aware of it, but if they're trained to smell that in addition to like marijuana, which is the big one, or gunpowder for guns, we have that, then I wouldn't know about the fentanyl, but we do preventative measures like that for those. Or Chief may want to touch on fentanyl dogs, we have those.
Well, again, as our officers, it's a big precaution. I think if our dogs are sniffing fentanyl, there's a chance that they're going to overdose. The dog will. So we kind of got to be careful on how we handle that fentanyl, especially, you know, our officers have had to change the type of gloves that we wear just because this one doesn't absorb fentanyl. I think it's very difficult. Kids are going to be kids and they're going to bring that stuff in. I think what we do with Crime Stoppers on our campuses is we encourage the kids, and the kids are starting, as she said, to get the idea that, hey, this is real. This is not good stuff. So we're hoping that they'll report that to the campus Crime Stoppers, to the school system, to the resource officers that they have there, or to the PD. But we also, and I touched this a little bit, so Dr. Lee, we have a safe school campus program where our police officers that are assigned to Crime Stoppers go out and teach an array of topics that affect our teenagers, but really on this fentanyl. And I think we've taught, Charlie, about 2,000 kids?
Last 2 weeks, around 2,000.
That we have at least educated to some point on the dangers of this. So we hope that keeps them from bringing it. But they're kids, and they're going to bring it. And that's why it's so important, as she said, for the teachers and nurses to have it, because kids are going to overdose in school. And it's going to happen if it hadn't already. I don't know whether it has or not, but and we need to be prepared for that. We need to be prepared that somebody can take action before we get there.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to have time for 2 more questions from the audience, and then I'm going to give each of our panelists a final wrap-up, and I'll just give you a heads up. The final wrap-up question I'm going to ask is, for the people in the audience today, what one thing would you like them to go out and do or change, or one thing that you'd like them to take away? So that'll be the final question. All right, we have time for 2 more questions. Yes.
My name is Jessica Dean. I'm the director and owner of Sober Living Incorporated. We partner with Helen Therapy Center. We do Narcan training and distribution from our office, but our availability of Narcan is so small. We've started up a new campaign. It's called STAND, which is support, training, awareness, and Narcan distribution. We'll have a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at 511 Mississippi. Just wanted to let everybody know that, and just kind of bring some awareness to that. It's going to be out in the community, ways to support it and get plugged in. And also, Angie, I wanted to let you know that Helen Therapy Centers and Red River both offer treatment for youth. And there's also a class on Tuesday nights. Pastor Matt Davila it's called Brighter Days, and it's for ages 10 to 20, and it's for children struggling with anything. It can be the fentanyl, the deaths, depression, anything. It's a 12-step, 12-week class. After they complete it, then they can then be mentors themselves to the younger kids coming up. But this is definitely not the Sheriff's Department or the Police Department's problem. This is a community issue, and I'm just here for any support that I can offer.
Okay, thank you. So just so everybody heard, she was telling about some community resources, some community training that anyone can go to. And if you want more details about that, you want to find her before you leave today. All right, I'm going to have a final question.
Yes, I have here all the information about kids, but what about parents, right? Everything starts at home. So we need to train the parents, especially those parents that are not aware of this information, who are actually most of the parents right now in the district. So perhaps we should be talking about how community organizations come together to offer that information, not only in English, but in Spanish to these parents. Like the information that you just mentioned, I would love to have it so I can share it in some groups that we have. Because at the end of the day, like you stated, this is a community issue. It's not just the school district issue. But we're gonna have to reach the family.
Okay. Would anyone on the panel like to address what specifically we can say or do for the parents instead of directly to the youth?
I was just going to say, there is a handout titled What Parents Need to Know, and it's in English and Spanish. It's double-sided, so that might be, and it's on our district website as well. And I know we've talked about trying to get a broader reach to parents as well, but that would be just working with the different groups to try to do that. And Crime Stoppers has been very generous about they're willing to do more parent outreach. Our goal was to first get into the schools and get with the students first, but I believe that the goal is to, expand that once we've had a chance to meet with the students directly. But we do have that resource, and it's also on our website, and we are very open to adding more. If you have suggestions, I would love to put those resources about students who are dealing with addiction, giving them a place to go as well. So I'm Ashley Thomas, if y'all want to, and I put things on our district website, and I'm happy to help if y'all have additional things you want me to share.
Thank you. And just so everyone heard her, the district has some handouts. They're here on the table. They're in English and Spanish, and they are for what parents need to know. All right, now I said only 2 questions left, but my club president had his hand up, so I got to squeeze him in. Steve, what was your question?
It was a question for Dr. Lee, and specifically around, we've heard what the district is partnering with Chief Borrego's department, Wichita Falls Police Department. What other community organizations are you guys partnering with to bring in education for the students, as this is not uniquely a young person problem, but is disproportionately affecting that group?
Yeah, good question. Into the immediate future, we're doing 2 things. One, City View Church has agreed to, now let me back up. You remember when you were in school and you'd have presentations or assemblies, as they were called, and about half the time you were bored out of your mind? Remember that? And so you would sit down there and you would have that glazed look over your face, and you're like, oh my God. So we really thought about the assemblies that we wanted to have, because if they weren't interesting and they didn't relate to the student and it didn't appeal to them, similar to teaching, the kids aren't going to get anything out of it. So what City View did, and I don't have the name of it right off the top of my head, but he's one of the best in the country, not just in the state, in dealing and speaking and relating to children. And he's going to be coming in at the top of the year in January. He's going to be speaking to a lot of our student groups. So that's one way that we're doing that. And so he's able to make it funny, appeal to them, but at the same time get a message across. We're also working with one of the county judges, and there's a program called Life Decisions. And that is going to be a program that we're going to focus in on the 5th graders, because that's generally where we start seeing the issues happen. So we're going to focus on 5, 6, 7, 8 with that. So there's 2 things specifically that the schools are doing to work with kids. It's all about awareness, because they just think it's appealing. What is it? What are the dangers, and what can happen to you?
Thank you. All right, now we will wrap up. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists, what one thing would you like for the people who are here in the audience, as they leave today, what one thing would you like them to remember or to do concerning this fentanyl crisis? And I'll start down here on this end.
Well, I think we need to realize that when we talk about this synthetic opioid, fentanyl, that we're not what they're taking out on the street or getting it, distributing down the street, is not coming from our pharmacies. Okay, these are coming from clandestine labs out of China, Mexico, and even in the United States. So the mixture is not, it's hard to say what the mixture is when they start putting fentanyl to these counterfeit pills. So our youth are taking them whether they know it's a counterfeit pill or they think it's a Percocet or some other synthetic opioid. They don't know what's inside of it. And that's really what our parents should understand and really should be what's scaring them, is that these pills, you may take 10 of them and they don't do anything to you. You take half of one and it may kill you. So if you take that away, give that to your kids, let them understand how dangerous this is, so that, you know, we don't have to respond to these anymore, because it's very heartbreaking.
I would like to mention here, we have had some patients that they need to take opioid because of the severe pain. Always we educate them and we tell them that please save this medication in a safe place, lock it. Don't allow anybody to have access to hydrocodone, oxycodone, or fentanyl patch that they have to use in order to get some relief from the pain. We have children in our houses. We have to make sure that they do understand why we are locking the medication, because we don't want them to have access to it. We don't want them to get addicted to oxycodone, and later on, because they are not able to get it from the family member, most probably they go on the street and look for it. And what's going to happen, they get the fake hydrocodone or oxycodone, and you know that they add the fentanyl to it, and it's going to cause more problem for the family and for the child. My point is, some of us, we need to take pain medicine, but also we have to educate ourselves that how we can protect our family to have access to it. This is a very important thing to do.
So for me, I would challenge everybody to attend one of the training classes and actually learn and know how to use the medications that are available from our pharmacies. As you've seen Dr. Abraham, she has the one that's for the nasal, and the one that we have is the one that looks like the EpiPen, so it's the injection. They're both very simple to use, but the more that you're exposed or able to use one of the trainers and figure out, how to do it, it helps. So, and of course, it's like teach one once you get taught.
Yeah, I'll just touch on what some of you already mentioned. My one takeaway is for y'all to help us and for us to help you, because we've mentioned that the school district can't do it all, and a lot of the eyeballs are always, what's the school doing? What are y'all doing? But the honest answer is it starts at home. And so, it filters over into the school like so many things do. And so we would really appreciate your help and support in steering parents and community members to our resources. And we've got a plethora of them. So go to our website, look at parent resources, and there's videos, there's information, there's these pamphlets, everything that you can imagine. But it's hard to get eyeballs onto that site if they don't know it's there. You don't know what you don't know, so help us help you. We're here to support, we're here to help. We care about all of our kids and the safety of them, but it's going to take all of us. So thank you.